here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my weekly San Francisco Giants in Review video. However, this time it's going to be a little bit different. Instead, I'll look at the first full month of this baseball season for San Francisco. Yeah, there have been some highs, there have been some lows. When you add it all up and average things out, it really does feel like somewhere right in the middle. I mean, don't get me wrong, things could be better. They also definitely could be worse. And that's where I'll begin with the points I want to make here. My overall interpretation is this. They're sitting fine. They're exiting April, potentially, if they win tonight, with a .500 record. Against the Boston Red Sox, if they win Game 1 of the series, they're 15-15. But as of right now, they're 14-15. They're on pace for 78 wins. Again, that's not great. That's basically where they were last season, and that was before a lot of change and turnover and transition. Their aspirations are much higher and much better than that this season. However, considering that change and considering this is the month of April, no baseball team wants to have their best month as the first month. And a lot of great teams play .500 baseball out of the gate, and then eventually they make their statement, they make their mark, they make their move in June and July, and so on and so on. So exiting April with around a .500 record, that's fine. Like I said, it's not great. It's not terrible. It's somewhere in between. And don't look too much into that pace thing. It's okay right now, but obviously it needs to get better. This is also a team that has never really had highs or lows for very long. I mean, yeah, they did lose 4 in a row. That was at the very beginning of the season, and part of that was being swept by the Dodgers. But they've also only won 2 games in a row as their longest winning streak. No real traction, no real run for this team yet. They have won 2 games in a row 3 times. Let's see if they can eventually extend that to 3, 4, 5, 6. But as of right now, it's kind of 1 step forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They've never really made an extreme push. They've won 4 series, they've split 2 series, and they've lost 3 series. I do think there was at least 1 more series win. I'm probably thinking about the National Series that they could have won and should have won and didn't. But overall, yeah, sitting fine considering this has been the month of April. Now let's get into some of the deeper details here individually. And I never got around to making a video about this. It happened a couple days ago, but Blake Snell going to the 15-day IL with this adductor strain. It's an issue he's had before, technically a groin issue. We'll get to that in just a second. But Blake Snell, when he was pitching, 3 games started, 11 2/3 innings pitched, 15 earned runs in that span. He also did record 12 strikeouts. But yeah, the ERA speaks for itself, 11.57. And considering the hype and the expectation and the reigning Cy Young Award winner and how they signed him and when they signed him and for how much they signed him, I get it. The bar was set tremendously high. But to struggle like this and to now have to go on the IL like this, 15 days means probably going to miss about 3 starts. And that's a minimum, it seems like 15 days. A couple weeks, whatever that means, is the accurate timeline. And I think going back, a lot of things complicate themselves in this situation. When you think about how he missed all of spring training and then missed the first couple series of the season, they wanted to give him the soft landing, right? So after the Padres series, after the Dodgers series, and then after the second Padres series, he started, I think, that first Monday night game at Oracle Park. And things just didn't go well. And the other day, he's in a bullpen session. He feels this strain in his groin, has to pull himself out. They say he caught it earlier than normal, and hopefully that's a good thing. And again, he's gone through this before. But it's easy to have the questions start mounting about, well, should this have been handled even differently? Should he have made some minor league starts before ramping up? Should they have taken even more time to inject him into the major league games? I don't know, and I don't know that any of this could have been prevented. I certainly don't want to hypothesize on that, but I'm just saying the frustration is there, all things considered, about what has actually happened now a first full month into this season. And that kind of brings me into the topic of right now versus redeemable. Yes, it's frustrating right now. And yeah, the stats aren't good right now. And no, he's out of service right now. But ultimately, I mean, even considering what the Giants are paying for Blake Snell, let's say the team does just fine in the first half to the All-Star break, and let's say he returns and does okay until that point. But let's say after the All-Star break, and the team really needs him, and then the team gets Robbie Ray back, and they get Cobb back at some point, and then they start making this push, and Blake Snell is untouchable in the second half. All of this right now is forgettable versus what he can potentially do in being redeemable. And not every player kind of carries that potential in their back pocket. And look, it would take him having to be that good at that timing of the second half to really, like I said, redeem everything and totally change this situation. But Blake Snell is one of those pitchers and one of those players where he can, knock everybody's socks off for a certain span of time, and it will help make you forget all of the other stuff that previously happened. Now, I don't know if that's how it's going to play out. That's just kind of a gut instinct type situation, but he is capable of redemption. It's just that you don't want to have him dig a personal hole in this season with struggling and then with injury. So I wish him the best. I hope this happens sooner than later, that he can make his comeback, have no more setbacks, and move on as expected in this season. And I don't mean to keep the negative train rolling here, especially because you all know how I feel about Matt Chapman, and I liked the addition of Jorge Soler. But I think the best way to put it with these two players is that they are still untapped. They're still not doing what I know and we all know that they're capable of. For Soler and Chapman getting a bunch of at-bats, Soler 102 at-bats, 22 hits, 5 dingers, leads the team in that category. But check this out, 5 homers and only 8 RBI. Now, some of that's controllable, some of it's not enough runners on base, but even not driving in runs in other situations outside of homers. I mean, just think about it. 5 RBI alone have come from driving himself in terms of hitting home runs. So just need more production from Jorge Soler. I saw the homer he hit over the weekend, like literally almost to the Coke bottle. That was impressive. But he's still sitting on a .216 batting average. And if this is going to be your everyday DH, obviously you need a little bit more of something. The run production or the higher batting average or a combination of both. And then for Matt Chapman, and I also understand it was a rough weekend for him defensively. That is totally atypical. He's made his mark. He's already made a highlight reel defensively for the Giants this season. And trust me when I tell you, more is yet to come for him in the field with that glove. He's only going to do that all season long. But the bat, obviously, checking in at .221 on the average, 113 at-bats into the season. He's got 25 hits, 4 dingers. He's drove in 14 runs, but you just need more and more consistency for Matt Chapman. I certainly hope that's coming for both of these players right around the corner. And just imagine if these numbers alone were upped by a significant amount. You talk about a team that's on the cusp of 500. In my opinion, and in my observation, analysis, whatever you want to call it, they might be a couple games over 500 if you had both of these players clicking, along with everything else that's going right, including the starting pitching, which has definitely taken a huge turn for the better recently. And you've also had some other players stepping into big roles, which we will also get into. Let's talk about the arms. They have really emerged, and I'll focus mainly here on the rotation. I think the bullpen is a different situation, maybe sometimes a different question. I didn't actually prepare that for this video, so maybe we'll do that the next time around. But Jordan Hicks, right? And the concern is, well, how many innings can he get to this season? He's only pitched 105 as the most ever for him personally. That was single A, I think, in 2017. So how's he going to survive 140, 150, 180 innings if he can get there this year? He's already through 34 innings, 2-0 record. He leads the team with a 1.59 ERA, 27 strikeouts, only 6 earned runs in 34 innings. That's how you get to that sub-2 ERA, and a 181 opponent's average against. Jordan Hicks has been phenomenal. He's been one of the brightest spots. I think you just, again, look at the body of work in the bigger picture. He has been dominant. Did he have a 9 strikeout performance in his last outing over the weekend? So he's continuing to just do great things when it's his turn to start. You always feel like that's a good day to win a baseball game. I know Logan Webb came out of the gate this year with some struggles, but man, has he turned that around. He's gotten back to exactly what you'd expect from Logan Webb, which unfortunately seems like it still continues the theme that he's just not going to get the run support that everybody hopes for him. Scoring runs, still an issue for this team, which we'll also talk about later. 2.33 ERA, the 3-1 record, 38 2/3 innings pitched, only 10 earned runs in that span. He struck out 26. Batters have a 248 average off of him. And just look at, 1 through 4 here, if that's what we're calling it, of the rotation right now. And everybody's got some pretty consistent numbers. And I think even throwing Keaton Winn in that category, who I realize has had more of the roller coaster effect in this season, some of the lows and then some of the highs and then some of the lows. 3-3 record, 3.18 ERA, 34 frames pitched, 12 earned runs, 28 strikeouts. Batters hit below the Mendoza line off Keaton Winn in his starts. And then Kyle Harrison has found himself all over again, 2-1 record. He actually carries the highest ERA of this group. Yeah, he's had a couple clunkers in there. That's fine. He'll work that out over time. 33 innings pitched, 15 earned runs, 31 strikeouts, and a 277 average against. It's sometimes way too easy to get buried in those stats like we just did. That is the biggest question overall. Are you, on your days of starts, giving your team a chance to win? And I would say these 4 right now are definitely doing that. Okay, earlier I talked about the roles, and I didn't necessarily mean role players, even though like Lamont Wade is definitely in that category, and Patrick Bailey doesn't get as many at-bats as some of the other regulars, but I'm just saying that these players in their certain roles are doing the job. And let's look at Patty Barrels. 71 ABs, 21 hits, 3 dingers. He's driven in 10 runs so far and carrying a 296 batting average. Love to see him hitting the baseball. I mean, that is such a step forward. That is so refreshing for this team. Obviously, behind the plate, calling a game, defensively need to be sound, but bringing the bat, that's obviously a big thing for this team. Nick Ahmed, I go back to spring training, not fully understanding the shortstop situation. And you don't know yet when Luciano is actually going to be ready or you're ready to make that move. In the interim, Nick Ahmed is making your decision easy. He's going to play there. He's going to be your shortstop. You don't really need to worry about this until something presents itself, like somebody's call-up is imminent and that needs to happen, or if Ahmed were struggling so much that you need to make a decision there. But Nick Ahmed has been doing the job. Giants got him later in spring training after spending all his years in Arizona, 84 at-bats, 22 hits, 8 runs batted in, and a 262 batting average, playing the important position of shortstop on a pretty regular basis. And then there's late-night Lamont Wade, 62 ABs. I realize he does strike out a fair amount, 21 Ks and 62 ABs, but also 21 hits. He has scored 11 runs. Like when he gets on base, he finds a way to touch the dish, 13 walks and a 339 batting average. It always brings me to the question of, should a player like that get a little bit more opportunity, more roles, more situations? And sometimes the argument is, well, certain players can get exposed, and then they're not as valuable when they're not in that utility and replacement type situation. But whatever it is for Lamont Wade, it's obviously helping the team. I hope he's able to keep it up. Michael Conforto, obviously more of a regular in the outfield, 105 at-bats, also leading the team with Soler, 5 homers, 16 RBI. He has struck out a fair amount, 24 times, but still getting on base to a decent clip and carrying a 267 batting average. So as much as I say this team together needs to score more runs and needs to be more consistent, there are some individuals that are having pretty good seasons offensively and statistically. So here are my takeaways, and I know this season just hasn't felt one way or the other. Hasn't felt great like the Giants are dominating. It also hasn't really felt like they're getting dominated series by series. I only think the Giants had the one series against Los Angeles where they felt overmatched. It was also at the beginning of the season. It was also at Dodger Stadium where they're in front of the home crowd. They're playing a different way. They're in the honeymoon phase with Ohtani. I totally get it. My point is, wipe that away. You will not remember that in August and September. But it only truly feels like they got dominated in one series. They also recently, I think in their last 4 series since Tampa Bay, they haven't lost a series. They split one, won the other 3. So if you're looking at traction and momentum that way, in terms of winning series, I said before they haven't won more than 2 games in a row. But winning series is starting to happen at a lot more of a consistent basis, and that's a very good thing. At the end of the year, that's what's going to matter most, what you did series by series. Again, they're still not scoring runs. They're still not putting teams away, building insurance, giving your starter a little bit of breathing room, making it a lot easier on your bullpen. The Giants rank 20th in Major League Baseball, scoring on average 4 runs per game. They scored 4.16 runs per game last season. And if you think the difference between 4 and 4.25 isn't much. Take a look at the leaderboard across baseball. The teams on the upper half of the league are scoring, 4.3, 4.4 runs a game. So this is all minuscule numbers, but it makes such a big difference over the long run. A run here, a run there, and how many more wins it will get you in those games with the slimmest of margins. I also think this is obvious, but I'll say it like that, and especially with Soler and Chapman, and obviously Blake Snell hasn't contributed much, and you don't have your full pitching rotation as designed and as planned for. This is definitely a team that's not hitting on all cylinders. And that's why I go back to the beginning here. Exit this month of April with a 500 record. If you do that, you're fine. You're not ahead of schedule. You're not behind schedule. You're kind of right on that graph of where you should be and positioning yourself to go on and make a run, do some damage with the rest of this summer. So again, I think the overall theme through a month is that they're fine. Like I said, could be better, could be worse. And I know that's hard to hear when there was so much excitement and buildup and you wanted to unwrap this thing and just see it thrive right out of the gate. But I've also seen this before. Seen it many times. A team will peak in April and May and get everybody's hopes up and get everybody's attention. And then it's very mediocre after that. And that's absolutely what you don't want, is to peak too early. You want some momentum to build. They've got all the right pieces. Give it some time. Let's better evaluate this after probably the next month of baseball. And I'll probably do another video on that eventually. But as for now, you made it to the end of this one. Thumbs up down below. I would really appreciate that. That'll help me, this channel, and this video. And by the way, you know I want to see you back here next time. And the way to make sure that happens is to go down right now below and hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you back here next time.